In this video, we're going to create a pen to put on Facebook Market. If you want to add an elegant touch to the pens that you make, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Michael. Behind the camera is Ellie. We are the Bill Paying Hobbyists, and we're using our hobbies and skill sets to pay off debt and to save for a house. So if you're new here, please join us on our journey and subscribe. One of my main hobbies is turning pens, and it's a great way to make some extra money. So today we're going to take you step by step on using this piece of wood and this kit and turning it into a pen you can sell. Make sure you stay till the end because I'm going to show you one of my secrets on making your pen shine like crazy. Okay, so we have our full pen kit and we have a long piece of wood. We don't want to use this whole piece of wood, so I'm going to cut it down to size by getting the length of the tube I need. I'll cut it to size and then I will drill the correct size hole. If you notice when I was on the bandsaw, I actually didn't measure and mark this. I have a jig that tells me how long I need to cut this based off the length of the tube. I just set it in there and it gives me just a little bit longer than my tube. I want that so that when I drill a hole, if I have a little bit of blowout, my tube is still good on the inside diameter of my blank. Now I'm going to find the center of my blank so that I can drill the correct size hole on the drill press. I also need a starting point, so I'm going to take my awl and I'm going to put it right on the center of the X and make a little dent. That way my drill bit has something to follow. Alright, the hole is drilled in our blank. For this particular kit, I used a 27/64 bit. Now, before you glue your tube into your blank, you need to make sure that the tube is not smooth. If you don't, it's not going to stick, the glue is not going to stick, and it's going to come out. So I just take an old piece of 120 grit sandpaper and I rough it up. That's all it takes. Just a little bit of roughing. I like to use JB Weld 2-part 5-minute epoxy. I let it dry for more than 5 minutes, but this is what I use. Make sure you follow the instructions on the epoxy that you use. All of them have a different mix time and a different cure time. This particular brand is about 30-second mix time, and you get 5 minutes of work time. Now when you put the tube into your blank, turn it as you go in and out, give it a nice turn, that way it makes it nice and even. Get it just below the surface of the end of your tube, into your blank. Make sure it's not sticking out on either side, and that's it. We're done. We're gonna let this dry for 24 hours. Our Bucote blank is all dry. The epoxy's nice and dry with our tube. So now we're going to turn it, and we're going to polish it, and then we're gonna put it together on our pen kit. It's pretty much the same process as our other pen that we did with the acrylic, except there's a couple extra steps in there to make this shine like the acrylic did. Let's get started. You can see the shiny epoxy here. We have a little bit in the tube as well. We need to clear that out. This side is good. My bushings need to fit inside. As you can see, it fits right here. This side, that epoxy's in the way, so we're going to cut that epoxy out. I'm also going to use my little X-Acto knife here to kind of chamfer the edge of the tube. And what that does is when it's time to press my pen together, it helps all that go together a lot easier. Since it's brass, it's soft enough that it's not going to hurt my razor blade. That one's good. Alright, we're done with that. Now we're going to the lathe. Safety. All of the pieces that I use, we'll provide links down in the bio. This is my mandrel, number 2 mandrel for turning pens. All right, this is the live side of the lathe. It will turn by machine. I put a spacer bushing on my mandrel. Then I'm gonna put the actual bushing I need for my pen. A piece of wood. My other bushing. And another spacer. On this end here, this is called a live center. It's a mandrel saver. It turns, it keeps this bar from flying all over the place. Get it up snug, I lock it down, I give it a couple twists so that it's nice and tight, Then I lock this down. Do not tighten this too tight. If you do, it's actually going to cause that rod to warp and your blank is going to be wobbly. It's not going to be straight. So we're going to test it and see how it turns. All right, no noise, no vibration, we're good. This is the chisel I'm going to use. It's a round chisel and it's homemade. These are fun to make. I'm going to set my lathe at about 2,700 RPM so that I can cut this piece of bakute. I'll bring my tool rest in about 1 inch or so, whatever's comfortable for you. I like to cut about right here. I don't like to get too close or too far away. Just remember, if these parts are turning, you don't want to be way up in there, because if you do, it's going to rub, it's going to cause friction. You also want your tool rest to be straight in parallel line with what you're turning. You also want your tool rest set to a height so that when you rest your chisel on it, the blade is somewhere close to the center of the piece you're turning. If it's too high or too low, it's not going to cut right, or it's going to grab and pull your chisel into it or throw it off of it, and that could be painful. We're going to turn the lathe on. Let's go 27, 56. There we go. Now we're ready to turn. I'm going to take little bits at a time. Not real fast, not real deep. All right, ooh, that's pretty. I got it close to my bushings. I still have about 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch to go. However, currently my blank is too long. I need to square off the edges so that they are perpendicular, exactly perpendicular to the tube inside. So let's do that next. We're gonna take our mandrel off, and I have my sanding pad. That's gonna screw on here. We're gonna take off the mandrel saver. It's just this little block right here, goes behind it. Pull it back, give it a little pop. Boop, pop that out. Number 2 mortise drill chuck and a special jig that will help square off my blank. I have a drive pin and my blank. I'm gonna put this in here. This holds it straight. Bring it all the way back. Let it touch the chuck. It'll hold it steady. Now I have something that's square with this end. When I put this on here, I'm completely square. I flatten this out. You see how the tube is a little bit lower than the end of the wood? I need to make these flush with each other. We're gonna sand at about 1600. You don't wanna go too fast. Get close, make sure it's locked down. That helps keep it perpendicular. That's locked. And here we go, we're just gonna sand. Don't push real hard. Check it. We're almost there. See a little bit of shiny? We're almost there. One more little hit. There we go. Nice and shiny. Now we need to do the other side. And we got the shine. There we go. Now we can continue turning to make it the right size for the pen. So these bushings tell us what diameter our pen blank needs to be at. So I'm going to cut these down to the bushings so that they fit on the pen properly. I'm going to give this a little bit of a bevel. You can make these any shape you want. I don't like to go crazy, so it'll be close to straight with a little bit of a bevel. And we're going to turn the lathe back up to about 2700 and finish cutting. One other thing I need to mention, when you're turning, you tool rest here. Bring your elbows in, lock them in. You're kind of locking this into your body. When you cut, you're not doing this with your arms. You're moving with your body. Rock with your body. That makes it nice and even, nice and flat, and it keeps you from doing a lot of jerking and making weird turns and cuts on your piece. Now when you're cutting towards your bushings, you don't want to get too close. If you do, you're going to cut your bushings. This is a carbide blade and it will cut the metal bushings. Alright, I have it as close as I want to get with my chisel. So the rest of this, I have a little bit left. I'm going to sand. This is where I start sanding, and I'll sand it down to get it into there. Be careful. Do not sand your bushings when you're using wood. If you do, you're going to bring all of those little fibers and whatever you take off with the sandpaper into the wood, it's going to turn it gray and it's going to be ugly. I'm going to start out with 180 grit sandpaper, just regular sandpaper, nothing special. And I'm going to turn my lathe down to about 1500. I use a backer board on my sandpaper to make it as level as possible. And you can tell when you're sanding, look right here. See how that, you can tell that was sanded? That's still a little bit shiny. The sandpaper hasn't gotten there yet. That means that's lower than this part. So we need to get down to there. That's pretty even. And if you notice the ends, they don't have to be perfect. It's handmade. The ends are a little bit more shiny because I haven't touched them yet. So I'm going to turn my paper just like this, and this will get me down to my bushing. Feel it? See how it feels? You're going to hit your bushings no matter what you do. Just don't stay on them. Now what I like to do, see all those hash lines in there? I'm going to go with the grain this time and get rid of these lines. This is the most important part. You want the wood, the bare wood, to be as flawless as you can possibly make it. Now I'm using 320. And I'm basically going to do the same thing I just did with the 180. Don't press real hard. If you press really, really hard, you're going to gouge it and it's going to look terrible. Now our last dry sanding spot is with this little foam pad. It's this one is a 1500 grit, and I don't use a backer rod. I use finger pressure. This helps me get in all the little different deflections in the wood. And as you can see, it just shined up, and we haven't even begun to polish it yet. And again, I'm only turning at about 1500. Take my rag, and I'm just going to put my finger on it. I'm not going to jump in there, because if I do, and this grabs, the lathe grabs this rag, it's going to rip your finger off. I'm not pushing really hard, and I'm not leaving a lot of loose cloth to get caught up by the lathe. Very important step when turning wood. Wood has grains in it. The grains hide a lot of stuff. So I'm taking denatured alcohol on a regular paper towel, and I'm wiping it off. Get as much dust, look at all that. All that dust is in there. I gotta get it out. If I don't, when I go to put my finish on here, all of that dust will turn white. And as you can see, the denatured alcohol dries really fast. Getting better. I'm gonna give one little step, and I'm gonna blow it out with some air, just to be safe. All right, I blew it off. I'm gonna hit it one more time with some denatured alcohol. Now the next part is our finish. I don't want glue all over my lathe, so I protect it with some cardboard. This is what I use. Mercury adhesive CA thin and mercury adhesive CA medium. I'm going to put about 3 or 4 coats of thin and about 3 or 4 coats of medium. I turn my lathe down to about 600 because I don't want that stuff flinging everywhere and getting all over everything, especially my foam. Shop towel rolled up. Now this is when you want it to stop, and you want to look to see if you have any white specks. I think we're doing good. Coat number 2. Uh-oh. There they are. When this happens, there's nothing to do but sand and start over. I see a lot of ridges in there just looking at it from here. And we're going to sand it. Sounds counterintuitive, but we're going to sand it, and then we're going to polish it. So to sand it, I'm going to use only my Abernet. It goes from 180 to 400, and it's very, very light sanding. Don't go all the way, because if you push too hard, you're going to go all the way through it. I don't need this anymore, and I'm going to turn my lathe back up to about 1200, and watch it get ugly. 180 grit. You want to get rid of all the ridges from applying the CA glue. That's all you're trying to do. Now I have lines, and I'm going to sand those off this way. We'll go with the green again. Again, not pushing very hard. Now you can see I still have shiny right there, but not here. That's the ridges I'm talking about. It's imperfect because you use your fingers to apply it. All I'm trying to do is make the finish dull, just like that. Nice and dull. There we go, that's better. A little bit right there. See it? See that line right there? Gotta get rid of it. There we go. 320. $400. It's no longer shiny. Let's fix that. It's time for wet sanding. Now you don't have to worry so much about hitting your bushings with this paper because the CA glue has sealed the wood and you're not going to pull anything into your wood this time. About halfway through I'm going to check and see if I see any really dull spots. Because if I do, that means I went through my finish and I don't see any. So let's continue. Now we need to polish. You can use whatever kind of polish you want. Something that polishes glass, plastic. Some people use an automotive body polish. Some people use plastics. It's your choice. Put it on, buff it off. Doesn't take a lot. And our last coat, Renaissance wax. A lot of people use it in jewelry. I use it here because it helps keep fingerprints off. And it does not take a lot. That's it. Now that's shiny. Now when you finish, most likely, your blank is going to be connected to your bushings from all that glue. Yeah, don't twist it off, don't crack it off, don't break it off. I got a little trick for you. Alright, so my bushings are pretty much adhered to my blank. Easiest thing to do, grab it. Something metal, square, give it a good little tap. You might have to do it a few times. A couple more tricks and we can put this baby together. I take 600 grit wet dry sandpaper. It helps get that residual glue off because there's a little bitty lip there and I want to get rid of it. And we're ready to put it together. All right, so I'm just gonna put a rag down so I can see my parts better. There's my kit, there's my blank, and this is my pen press. This will help me put the pen together. Little block of wood. My blank and my parts. Now, this is my ink cartridge. Set that off to the side. This is my end cap with the clip already on it. That's the piece I need to start. Now, this side has a little bit more bevel than this side, so I'm going to put this at the end with this. I'm going to go right here. All right, so we're going to set this up. And you want to keep this as straight as possible. Give it a nice little push. Don't push too hard. If you do, you will crack your finish and you'll be mad. We are done with the pen press. This is the tip. This is the transmission. It turns. That's what makes the pen ink go in and out. All right. We also need a spring. Most of your pen kits, the ink will come with a little wax tip on it. That's to help protect the ball. You can leave it on or you can take it off, whatever you choose to do. Put that on, put it in the tip, screw your transmission on. You gotta play with it a little bit so it goes all the way in. Twist it on, pin goes in and out. Slide it together, and it is done. It's numbers time. I'm gonna put the numbers together for my time and the materials, and I know I'm gonna be able to put this on Marketplace for around $70. After it sells, we'll come back and let you know how it does and how much we were able to put towards our 2021 financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Join us on our journey. See you next time.